Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. Natchez captures an unsettling clash between history and memory in a small Mississippi town, a layered mosaic of people contending with the weight of the past in a place where it is always present. Equal parts amusing and disturbing, we journey through the antebellum tourist destination at a crossroads as it grapples with a deeply troubled history that is thoroughly ingrained in its present. We are left to wonder if it's actually the past at all. The film is called Natchez, and we're joined today by the director and producer, Suzannah Herbert. Suzannah, welcome to Cinemophile. You're so welcome. When I see a documentary that moves me, enlightens me, educates me in the way that this one does, I want to stand on the rooftops and tell everybody I know to see this film because it had that impact on me. What is your connection to Natchez, and what prompted you to want to make a documentary film about it?
Well, I'm from Memphis. I grew up in the South, and I'm really passionate about telling Southern stories, and I make films about that and about the South. And I first got interested in antebellum storytelling and history when I was invited to a wedding on a plantation. And it really got me thinking about how white people today use historic sites and sites of such pain and trauma for their own, like how they use it for their own enjoyment and entertainment and profit. And I wanted to understand that, but also interrogate it. And I thought I went on a journey actually with my mom. We went on a road trip from Memphis all through Mississippi down to New Orleans, and we just talked to a bunch of our friends in Mississippi, and they all told us to go to Natchez, and I had never been before. Actually, it's 5 hours south of Memphis, very much like off the beaten path. And when we got there, I was just so overcome by the beauty and the horror that was in tension and in conflict with each other. And it was very unsettling and uncomfortable. And I realized that I needed to lean into that in a film, and that's what I needed to explore was the dichotomy between the two. And so I started going to Natchez and meeting people, talking to people on the bluff, just striking up conversations. I had friends who connected me in Natchez, and they invited me over for coffee or cocktail parties, and I started meeting people, and a lot of people in Natchez are in the tourism industry. So they're very open to visitors and like talking about what they do and their history and the history that they're telling. And so it was kind of a natural way to approach the subject.
Yeah, there's this incredible confluence of history, past and present, the people that are there, the interaction that they have with this place, that in addition to the historic conflict, the historic history, that's redundant, the history of this place, but it but on top of everything else, it was a destination hundreds of miles worth of trudging through God knows what, shackled to end up there. And in addition to the antebellum homes and the history and the garden parties and all that stuff, this is the place. And I don't know that I can think of another place, maybe Sullivan Island in South Carolina, that more represents all of the horror and all of the different cross currents of the way we've lied to ourselves, the way we tell ourselves these fairy tales in order to assuage our guilt than this place. I just can't imagine. I'm sure there are probably other historic places that would rival this. it's unbelievable what we see in this documentary about this town. Am I on the you?
You were spot on, Mike, and like so well said and articulated in a way that I think that kind of yeah, it's I think it's because Natchez 100 years ago opted into historical tourism to save the city. Like the film tells you, you know, the antebellum houses were falling down, and there used to be so much wealth there during antebellum times, and then that slowly went away when, you know, um, when after the war and the depression and, you know, sharecropping and the decimation of the cotton crop. And so they had to kind of find a new way to survive, I guess. And that's when they created these garden tours, and I think helped create the myth behind the lost cause narrative, right? And so because people for generations have been coming to Natchez to learn the history in quotes, or to learn one version of it, it solidified Natchez as um, this like concentration of American history and yeah.
Just as and as you described it, Susanna, it's a I don't know if it's an accident of history. I don't know if it's divine intervention that this would be the place that was preserved, and that the people who were there went out of their way to preserve it in the way that they did. I mean, to say that they're, I don't know what the word is, in denial or just blind to history or don't know history and don't see the irony of it, or just a matter of survival. They're just trying to keep the town alive so they can continue to live in it. But all of those things are playing out in this film.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a confluence of all of those factors. And this isn't in the film. There's so much that's not in the film that we couldn't, so much history that we couldn't fit. But one of the really interesting things is that Natchez kind of became the Martha's Vineyard, or like the Hamptons of the 19th century. It's basically where all the enslavers built their big, beautiful homes to show off, and it became like the town where the plantation owners went to. And so they had their plantation all along the Mississippi River in Louisiana and Mississippi, but the place where you like entertained and showed off your wealth and had parties and did business was all in Natchez. And so it had the most millionaires per capita at a time in the 1860s. And actually, there were so many Northerners who, during the 40s, 1840s, 50s, and 60s, who made a lot of money in the North through, you know, whatever. You know, they were rich businessmen, rich people, and they actually came down to the South and bought up people and property to diversify, to make more money. And so there were actually a lot of Northerners during the time of the Civil War in Natchez who had interest in the North still, and they saw the writing on the wall when secession happened, and Natchez, or Adams County, which is where Natchez is, was the only county in Mississippi to vote not to secede from the Union, because it was mostly Northerners who wanted to protect, not because they felt that,
Yeah,
yeah, they
right.
weren't in support of abolishing slavery. They wanted to keep their money and they wanted to protect their assets. So then when the North came in and then they invaded, you know, they decimated Vicksburg, they decimated the South. There are not many antebellum structures in Mississippi because it all got destroyed during the war, except for Natchez, because they set up shop there. They like that's where their headquarters became. It was spared. And I don't know if I think it was a combination of all those different factors, plus probably, like you said, divine intervention. But that's why we have this place preserved, basically.
It's unbelievable. And then you found it. I mean, for the purposes of this film, by the way, Natchez is what we're talking about. By the way, it won Best Documentary at the 2025 Tribeca Film Festival. So this film comes with some pedigree as well as the story and all the rest of it. You're working with Sam Pollard and so many other wonderful producers on this film. And it really, for our listeners, anyone listening to our conversation, this film really lands in terms of seeing all of the different points of view and done in a very genteel way. There's almost a Fred Weisman kind of feel. You're just kind of documenting people as they go through their life. It's a little more interactive or proactive than that, but it just you feel like they're living their lives the way that they have and see it as normal. And I understand why some of them see it as normal and why others don't. And it's all you're pacing the film, the editing, all of it just really pulled me in to their stories. And I didn't think you were overly harsh with anyone, or nor did you pull your punches? You were fair to everyone in the film. But I got to point out a couple of people that really jump out. Reverend Collins is pretty amazing, and also Sir Boxley, which we don't get a chance to talk with a lot in the film. But my God, what did he do to bring this to the attention of the people who should have known it? But also, what was the field called? I want to make sure I get it. The field where the slaves were brought to. Forks of the Road. Unbelievable story. Unbelievable. And I don't want to spoil it, but I wanted to say something about the significance of it. Would you please help us understand why it is so significant?
Yeah, so the Forks of the Road was the second largest slave market in this country, and it is where almost a quarter of a million people were sold at on their way from basically from the east, from Virginia, North Carolina. When the cotton gin was created, it became such a boom. There was such a boom in the cotton industry that planters needed or like they wanted people in the South where the land was more fertile than in the East. So they brought, and the international slave trade was stopped in the early 1800s, legally stopped. There still was illegal stuff happening, but they basically brought people from the East and they marched them for 9 weeks in chains. Um,
Over how many miles are we talking?
I think that like I don't know exactly, but at least
They
like
said something like 800 miles for some of these
yeah,
people.
yeah, 800 miles in chains. Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to kind of linger on that for a second.
Yeah.
Shackled in 5 places on their body, essentially. The movement would have been unbelievably difficult if you were walking 100 yards, let alone the kinds of distances we're talking about here. How many people died and who cared, like that they didn't care about. They
They probably could took very little record of that. It's just it's uncompre you can barely comprehend it, honestly. It's just
it,
it's so horrible. And then you get to Natchez and you know you're put up for auction. You're
yeah,
made to look, you're cleaned for probably the first time in 9 weeks, and people, the enslavers or I don't know what they would call them, the slave traders. The slave traders would make you look shiny, and put grease on you to make you look more attractive to the people buying other
buying you,
people,
buying them.
buying you, and
Yeah.
separating families. I mean, I think, separating children from their mothers, and being sold all across Louisiana, Mississippi, um, and beyond. Yeah, it's really, and so then you would continue the journey to the plantation that you were sold to.
I urge anyone who is hearing our conversation, you really search us out. Natchez, Natchez. And I know it's opening in theaters around the country as we speak. If you have an opportunity, what's the website I can send people to?
It's natchezfilm.com.
Okay. Natchez film.com. So check this out and seek it out. Um, and I mean, how has this affected you? Hearing this story, I mean, just sort of in terms of like what your personal perspective was going in, what you expected. You had some expectations what you were getting into, but I just can't help but think that this would have had a profound impact on anyone who's worked on this project.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I'm still processing. I mean, the best thing that's happened, honestly, is just the lifelong relationships I've formed with people in Natchez and with my collaborators, my creative collaborators, but definitely like Rev and Debbie and Tracy and Kathleen, the park service, the head of the park service, and Barney, the park ranger. Um, these are, I hope, lifelong friendships and relationships. So that's been the most beautiful thing, I would say. And then beyond that, it's just, just kind of I knew I knew that these myths that are perpetuated in our society are harmful, but I to see the harm up close
Yeah.
on people you love is really painful, and I want to live in a world where that doesn't happen.
I don't think I'm being unfair, but at the same time, I'm pointing them out. Okay. The guy who runs the auto repair place across the street from the Forks, and then the guy who we see near the end, and he has his own tour of one of these giant mansions of
Mhm.
the antebellum era, of the slave era.
Yeah.
The antebellum is, it seems like a very polite way of saying the slave era, but we see that. And again, not to turn them into caricatures, because I think what they're sharing is a point of view that we need to hear. We hear it all the time. We hear exactly what they're saying in some manner of speaking all the time, and we need to hear it. We need to hear it in this context, is what I think is important.
Yeah, that was really important to me to to kind of not to expose the audience and like make you sit with the discomfort, and make you experience it in a way that hopefully will affect you or affect minds and open minds, to create more like empathy and change.
Yeah. For me, it's just in case you're wondering, in case the people watching this, well, maybe, there are certain things, maybe no, there's something unredemptive about the perspective that's presented here. There's no redemption. There's no silver lining here. The fact that these people have survived and despite it thrived in this community and across this country is just unbelievable on another level. So it's things we all been talking about for as long my whole lifetime. This has been something that's been bantered back and forth, and I hope hopefully people who see this film, we can put a nail in that coffin.
Mm.
Okay, I mean, I just feel like it should have that kind of, it should land with people in that way.
I hope so, but that's why the Trump administration right now is so adamant about controlling like, the national narrative, right? Storytelling is so impactful. It kind of defines who we are as a nation, and it then affects policies and politics and how people vote. So I think that's why they're digging in their heels so hard about, yeah, about what can be told at national park service or national park sites and museums, and trying to rewrite history, essentially.
My girlfriend gave me the benefit of a great phrase: "A dying donkey kicks hardest," and it stuck with me. And that's
Very,
kind of how I hope it's a dying donkey. We can't we cannot continue to pretend anymore.
we can't. It's an open wound, and it's just continuing
Yeah.
to I mean, kill us, really. And we need to be able to fix it and heal, but we're not going to be able to do that unless we like confront the truth. So
Exactly. The first step is acknowledging it and
yeah,
really acknowledging it. And this film really acknowledges it. So, well, Suzannah Herbert, thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you really, truly for this terrific film, Natchez. And
thank
I
you.
hope you continue to pursue your whatever projects you deem worthy of your time because
Thanks. Yeah.
it's, as I said, beautifully paced. The editing is excellent. Working with
Thanks.
Sam's been on the show. Sam Pollard's been on the show. I'm bragging, humble brag here a lot,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he's been on the show a number of times, and it's always a joy, pleasure to see him involved with whatever it is. And other Pablo Proenza
Yes.
and Darcy McKinnon are also part of your production team, and Seriously. And Cindy Meal, who I had on for Buck many years ago. What a great person she is. I love her.
Great
So,
person. So
yeah.
Cindy was she grew up in Jackson and Mississippi, and grew up going to pilgrimage as a little girl. And she was the first person who believed in our film and believed in what we were trying to do and gave us the support behind it, that like this film would not be, I don't think we wouldn't be where we are with the film without Cindy. Sam Pollard, he believed in the film very, very early on. He was my teacher at NYU, and has been a big influence and mentor. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of filmmakers out there that wish they had beat you to this story. I'll tell you that, right?
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate your thoughts and like your thinking around the film, and it's just, yeah, it's just very
Oh,
thoughtful. I
well,
appreciate
thank you. Again, we've been speaking with Suzannah Herbert, the director and producer of this incredible film, Natchez. Thank you very, very much for your time today.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.